Aujourd'hui, on est face à des milices, on est face à des acteurs qui ne respectent pas les règles internationales et qu'il faut donc adopter une position plus robuste et parfois où il faut adopter la force. Donc les Canadiens, après 10 ans d'expérience en Afghanistan, lorsqu'ils se retireront l'année prochaine, m'apparaissent tout à fait bien entraînés pour revenir dans ces opérations de paix, qu'elles soient au Congo-Kinshasa, comme la rumeur le prête depuis quelques semaines. Peut-être que le ministre des Affaires étrangères fera une annonce là-dessus dans quelques semaines, ou dans tout autre théâtre des Nations Unies, parce que, et je termine là-dessus, Jean-Marie Guénaud l'a précisé hier lors de son intervention, quand il était secrétaire général adjoint aux opérations de paix aux Nations Unies pendant 8 ans, il n'a pas arrêté de demander aux pays occidentaux de se réengager, particulièrement pour obtenir des troupes spécialisées, ce qui manque aux Nations Unies. Et il a réitéré cet appel, encore une fois, hier, dans cette salle, pour que le Canada et d'autres pays reviennent au maintien de la paix, et pas uniquement pour fournir des troupes spécialisées, mais aussi pour remplir ce mandat essentiel qui est celui de l'universalité du maintien de la paix. On ne peut pas avoir un maintien de la paix à deux vitesses. Le maintien de la paix des pauvres, celui qui voit des contingents africains et asiatiques en Afrique, et celui des riches, celui qui voit les pays occidentaux en Europe ou dans des missions de l'OTAN. Parce que le maintien de la paix, tel qu'il a été conçu dans les années 50 et 60, c'était une pratique universelle et il fallait que tous soient à l'intérieur de la tente, si je peux m'exprimer ainsi. Alors je crois que dans les prochains mois, on va voir le Canada revenir à ce maintien de la paix, tout en ne délaissant pas des opérations à l'Afghan si jamais ça devait se reproduire. Merci.
Just in case I need it.
Merci Jocelyn et merci aussi de nous avoir tous montré l'exemple en étant très disciplinés par rapport au temps. Alors, je passe la parole au brigadier général Thompson et je lui ferai signe. J'ai récupéré les papiers avec les petits avertissements. Si jamais, mais je le doute, connaissant la discipline militaire, il parle pour plus que 20 minutes.
Celui-là, ok, merci. Premièrement, il faut dire que c'est évident que même si je suis confortable en français, je vais faire mes petits mots en anglais. Mais si vous avez des questions après, je suis complètement à l'aise à vous répondre en français. First off, let me apologize for not being here yesterday. I really should have been. However, as many of you will know, it was the 93rd anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge, and it was the end of an era. And there was a rather elaborate ceremony that took place in Ottawa that I was very happy to attend. Not as intellectually stimulating, but certainly something that I needed to attend to. I'm here in uniform, largely so that you can recognize me as not being an academic, and that's not meant as a needle. It's just to so that you know that I'm going to give you the practitioner's view rather than some polished product that you might get from an academic. I'm also not a policy man. It's important to state that right up front, and I'm not going to speculate at all about what Canada may or may not do post-2011, Jocelyn. But I'm very happy to present my views, and they're not D&D views. They're my views on how things should work on the ground. But if you want reflections on policy, we have this great act in Canada, the Access to Information Act, and I'm sure you'll be able to troll if you have the patience. Will eventually, the patience of Job, as I've written here, you'll eventually get the data you need.
And if you can read through the redactions.
Yes, the redactions, yes, the dreaded redactions. First, let me recognize that, and I'm very humble to be in the presence of people like Madame Carolyn McCaskey, and of course, it's worth, when you mention them, of course, worth having a little bit of an anecdote. My connection to Madame McCaskey was be the unfortunate officer that escorted her into Minister Graham, who was in our Defense Minister's office, when she returned from her mission as the SRSG. I don't know if you were returning or if you were midway through it.
I was begging support from her.
Yes. And anyway, she arrived in his office only to find out that he clearly hadn't read his briefing note, mixed Burundi up with Rwanda, mixed Carolyn up with another... Kathleen, yeah. Anyway, quite an embarrassing... So, on behalf of Minister Graham, we're sorry. Also...
Now can I have the Canadian contingent for Burundi?
I'm working on it. Of course, to be here on the same panel as Mr. Heimbecker is a big honor. I recall when he left his post as our ambassador in New York, he wrote a very heartfelt email. I think it was entitled "The Lament for Africa." Of course, you'd have to ATIP it because it wasn't public, and it was basically outlining why the Western's fixation on places like Iraq and Afghanistan was the death knell for, not the death knell, but it was going to be grim years in Africa, and I think you're absolutely right, sir. So kudos for that. And of course, Jocelyn, you'll be alarmed to learn I actually did read your paper. So I'm not going to make any comments on it, but I will say I'm going to use it as a crutch because in the military, plagiarism is the best form of flattery. I'd also like to mention the fact that Marie-Joëlle outlined or summarized many of Mr. Brahimi's recommendations, which spares me the 5 minutes it might have taken me to do it. I would just say that I classified them into 4 broad categories: preventative action, peace-building strategies, peacekeeping strategies, and then housekeeping. And housekeeping items include things such as systemizing the method for selecting mission leadership, for establishing these mission startup kits in Brindisi, which we've certainly used internationally, and for utilizing the concept of integrated mission task force for mission-specific planning. I think we all understand what Mr. Brahimi wrote, and I'll get back to him at the very end of this little discussion. From a Canadian standpoint, if I very briefly review some of the missions we've been involved in during the period that the Brahimi report was being written, released, and subsequently enacted. You have the Bosnia mission, which started as a UN mission in 1992, clearly failed and had to be transitioned to NATO under I-4 and S-4 in 1995-96, and now is, of course, an EU mission as of 2004. Sierra Leone, the first intervention, a regional organization, ECOMOG in 1997, transitioning to UNAMSL, which eventually failed, I guess we could say, and had to be bailed out by the UK's Operation Palazar, followed by a reinvigorated UNAMSL, and of course the British International Military Assistance Training Team, of which Canada plays an active role, standing up the Republic of Sierra Leone's armed forces. East Timor, the initial intervention was done by the International Force for East Timor, or Interfret, and has subsequently been succeeded by several different UN missions, and of course has been recognized as an independent state since 2002. Kosovo, a classic regional operation, at least from a NATO perspective. 1999, K4, which was what the name of the force was, followed by UNMIC. The DRC, we're all familiar with that. Since 2000, MONUC has been present with some limited interventions by, as an example, the European Union during Op Artemis in 2003 out in the Bunya area. Afghanistan started with Operation Enduring Freedom, transitioned, was augmented by ISAF, and as well by UNAMA in 2002, and all of that was done in support of the Bonn Agreement, and that mission continues to evolve, and we may get to that eventually in this chat. Darfur, 2004, the deployment of AMIS. Canada had a major role to play in that, maybe not as boots on the ground, but certainly financing it, and it's now been merged with UNAMID. And finally, Haiti, where we've been present on many occasions, but in 2004, the deployment of the multinational interim force based, which sent in a Canadian battalion alongside some US Marines, and has subsequently been followed by MINUSTA. So a casual deduction, and again, I'm not an academic, but a casual deduction from this might be that regional security organizations with real resources or coalitions of the willing are often needed to force the transition from war to the stability phase where the UN is perhaps better suited to engage. Now, I'm not sure I agree with that, but I think that the formula for success has more to do with the quality